culo. I'm in love with the coco. I'm in love with the coco. I'm in love with the coco.
What is going on, guys? Brad Messersmith here from the Fantasy Golf Degenerates, bringing you another expert model breakdown. We are in love with the Coco Beach Golf Club in Rio Grande, Puerto Rico. This week, we're talking about the Puerto Rico Open. Obviously, if you've taken a scroll through the list of salaries this week, you will know that we are talking about a very weak field, which could change the strategy a little bit. I'll talk about that more on the podcast this week, the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast. There will be a link in the description if you do not already listen. Make sure to get over there and listen. You'll hear more of my thoughts on the slate this week. Before we get too far into it, make sure to get over to thefantasyfanatics.com and become a premium member if you want to access all of the tools you're going to see here today. You can actually access my own personal model, so you can jump in and see the stats, see the rankings on every single guy in the field. You just have to simply one-click download my expert model. So as always, every week, get over to thefantasyfanatics.com. Best tools on the market for fantasy golf. And make sure to use the link in the description. So, all of that being said, a couple of key stats we want to key in on this week. A little bit different than your normal or your typical stats that you'll see from week to week. Total driving is the heaviest weight I'm going to put on any stat this week. Total driving is a combination of driving distance and driving accuracy. We've seen a combination of guys, or we've seen various guys of various skill levels in driving win this event. We've seen the likes of Tony Finau and Alex Checa, who are essentially polar opposites. So this course seems to be, in my opinion, a course that can really favor bombers if they're going to be accurate off the tee or accurate enough to stay out of the water, which you will find on 67% of all of the holes this week. So definitely going to be a little bit of accuracy off the tee. That's going to come into play. So total driving, I think, is one that really stands out to me in kind of a big way. Birdie or better percentage is probably no surprise. You'll see that in my model most weeks. DraftKings points gained on par 72 courses. This is a par 72 course. Weak field DraftKings points gained in weak field events also shows up. Be a little bit careful with this if you're using 2016, 2017 stats. You may find that there are some guys who do not have enough events played to qualify for this stat. So if you see a guy that is ranked lower that you think should be higher in your model, then there may be a couple things missing in the stats category which could be causing that. Strokes gained tee to green and par 3 scoring, interestingly enough. I think at some point I'll have a couple of debates on Twitter over the par 3 scoring. Seems like an event where par 5 scoring is going to be very, very easy on the par 5s. But in the trends tool, you will find par 3 scoring will show up a little bit more relevant. Kind of counterintuitive there, but I'm going to lean on the trends tool more than I'm going to lean on my own intuition. Recent form in my model has been shortened a bit. Ordinarily, you'll see something like 8 or 10 weeks in my recent form section. This week, I've got 4. The reason for that is that I don't want to punish the guys who don't have recent form for a long time. There's going to be a lot of guys in this field because of the weak field event that have not played a lot of events. So I don't want to weigh recent form too heavily. And when it comes to GPPs, I'm really not that interested in weighting recent form too heavily. And we'll get to a couple of guys that I really like that don't have very good recent form. Course history is kind of the out-of-the-box model dating back to 2009. We've got some good course history at this event, so really like this event. You'll hear a lot of people talk about weak field events like this and reducing their exposure or playing less volume in DFS. In my opinion, I think this is a week that we should really hammer hard. Most people, or the general public who are going to be playing, which may be few and far between, are not going to be familiar enough with some of the names on the list of guys in the field this week to really have much of an advantage. So I think that just makes us even more ahead of the curve than usual. So a couple of guys I want to talk about. I'll skip over some of these top guys. I think you're kind of, it's a very, very weak field. As I said, the higher priced guys all are going to seem a bit overpriced compared to what you typically see them at. So I won't cover the top three guys. I think you can kind of pick between the three of them and really not go too far out of your own way. Graham Dillette, I think, is the one I like the best. But Peter Uihlein is a guy who I think will be a bit lower owned than the rest of them in this pack, and he is a guy that I really like. He's won on the Euro Tour not too long ago. He graduated from Oklahoma State, I believe, in 2013. Came out of the box straight to the Euro Tour. He actually roomed with Brooks Koepka and I think Jordan Spieth early on in his career. I want to say it was the first year out of school. Has been playing consistently well this year on the Euro Tour. Has not missed a cut. Has I think 4 or 5 top 20s. So somebody who is I think going to go a bit overlooked because of his price and because of the lack of name recognition, but somebody who I will be targeting, I think, quite a bit, especially in a weak field event. In my opinion, or at least in recent history, we've seen these weak field events have a pretty wide open result. You see guys like Tony Finau, who last year was 40-1 to win the thing. You see guys like Alex Cheka. This is an event where the result may be a bit unexpected. You may see some guys come out of nowhere and find a way to win in a weaker field event like this. That being said, Chris Kirk is one of the guys who I think has pretty bad recent form, but I think is a bit underpriced. I'm not sure how popular he will be because of that price, but in my opinion, I think he's one of the better golfers in the field. In terms of the official world golf rankings, they agree. In terms of the Vegas odds, they don't necessarily agree 100% with me, but definitely a guy I think is not at a bad price. So going to be targeting Chris Kirk quite a bit. Brandon Hagge is a guy I'm a little bit torn on. I like him quite a bit. He is a bit of a bomber, if I'm not mistaken, coming off the Web.com tour. At 8,300 feels a bit overpriced, but I think that's going to be kind of the feel that we get for basically everybody this week. But we've seen bombers off the tee, if they can find the fairway and stay out of trouble, perform pretty well. And Brandon Hagge, I think, has what it takes to break through in a weak field event like this. He is 7th overall in my statistics model. Dominic Bozelli is a guy who has actually popped up in terms of recent form. I think he's kind of an interesting person to talk about here. Very hot and cold thus far on tour, but has shown the propensity to be able to finish way up high on the leaderboard. So somebody I'm going to have a little bit of. Thorbjorn Olsen is a guy at 7,700 who I don't dislike very much. He's 14th ranked in my model. The thing that I like the most about Thorbjorn Olsen is that he is one of the highest ranks in terms of just the statistics. Course history and recent form I can overlook a bit, especially for a guy who I suspect has not played much on this course, if at all. Yes, that is correct. He has not played at all at this course. Recent form is not great, but look at those stats. He is in the top 30 in almost all of the fields and top 50 in birdie or better percentage. So a guy that I'm going to be targeting quite a bit. Chris Stroud, I'm still not sure about. I think that he may end up being somewhat popular. Most likely on a week like this, we're going to see the ownership cluster of quite a bit. So make sure to check out the adjustments I make throughout the week. I will tweet them out. Follow me on Twitter at BMSDFS to get all of those updates. But expect guys like Chris Stroud or some of these other guys down low who are mentioned quite a bit by a lot of the DFS experts out there to have very clustered ownership this week because of the lack of name recognition in the field. Dropping down a bit more, I think Trey Mullinax is a guy who is also going to be popular. I think you'll see some of the ownership cluster there. Right now he's projected at 12%, which is about as high as it gets in this range. But statistically fits the course very, very well. Ranks out pretty well. Again, this is a week that I think that you're going to see some of these some of these kind of no-name guys come out of the lower ranks in this field, and I could very easily see Trey Mullinox finish in the top 10 this week. The last guy I want to talk about is Xander Schauffele. He is at 6K, almost the minimum price, and I would say long-term one of the more skilled golfers in the field. Overall, he's ranked 18th in my model. Very, very strong ranking for somebody who's almost the minimum price. I suspect that he will be at least somewhat popular. I don't know how popular he will be, but certainly a guy I'm going to be targeting in GPPs because of his statistical fit and his rank in my statistic model. So that's going to do it for us this week, breaking down the expert model. If there's any other questions you guys have, any concerns, anything you disagree with, and anything you want to know more about, be sure to follow me on Twitter at BMSDFS and get onto the fantasyfanatics.com. The Strategy Center has all kinds of good information, different articles throughout the week, course breakdowns, lots of good stuff there. Web.com Tour Experts. We've got recaps from last week's event. Really good information over there at thefantasyfanatics.com. And other than that, I think that's going to do it for us. We will catch you guys next time.